And welcome into the Wednesday edition, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley alongside Connor Newt. Ian Safar here with you on this Wednesday morning. Rexrode out today. He will be back tomorrow. So Rexrode back in the fold tomorrow. Paul Kuharski will be with us tomorrow as well in the 7 o'clock hour, live from Georgia. Day number 2 of joint practice for the Titans coming up today against the Atlanta Falcons. We'll have Nick Suss from the Tennessean join us here in about 30 minutes as the Titans prepare for day number 2. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive High membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Connor Newt, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good morning. I'm praying all of Nashville is not completely sick of my voice right now, but, it is what it is. I've been on the air. Friday I was on for 6 straight hours. Saturday I was on. Sunday I was on. And then yesterday I was on. So
is that a humble brag? What we got?
Yeah.
Ian, what's the ruling? Is that a humble brag by Connor Newt?
Maybe a little there. Yeah.
Sounds good. I could never grow tired of your voice, Connor Newt, so I'm
Well,
glad to have you with us today.
That's nice. That's nice to hear. I've been told now by Robby that I have the voice of an angel.
You have the voice of an angel. I'm looking out for you. We just saw a news story of some woman in Bayou La Battery, Alabama, lighting her ex-boyfriend's car on fire. So
based on
trying to be careful of the dating pool.
That's right.
out
We're
there.
giving relationship advice.
Upon
to the
looking
young
at
Connor
her,
Newt.
she does look like she would be the one to commit arson. So
Well, there's a big hole in the seat of the car there. So whatever she did, successful to light the ex-boyfriend's car on fire. So just got to really be careful of who you're spending your time with out there. That was kind of my message to Connor Newt in the pre-show meeting this morning. So I hope you took it to heart.
Oh, I did. From 2 married men, it means a lot.
Yeah, that's what we're here for. Ian Safar, how we doing? What's going on?
Doing good. Hope everybody's being careful on the roads this morning. Well, it's raining kind of hard. There's some standing water.
It was.
Some ponding.
Not good.
We needed rain today, though.
Yeah, my garden will appreciate that. So
Except we got to mow. That kind of sucks.
It was.
Yep.
All right, we have the YouTube chat already going nuts for a gout check on Rexrode.
No, gout check.
I can confirm. I guess I can't confirm, but I'm 97% sure that this is nothing to do with gout. This was pre-planned.
Maybe someday you could be like me and get gout.
The one day where he didn't show up and had gout, that was not pre-planned.
Correct.
So this one, reasonably confident that it is not anything to do with gout. But I do appreciate the YouTube chat immediately checking in on Rexrode to make sure his gout is under control. Last I heard, he's still managing this one quite effectively. So I don't think there's gout to worry about today. Just so you know.
That's good to hear.
It is.
We're praying for you, Jay.
Yeah,
Rexrode.
it is. It is good to hear that. We do have a lot to get into on the program today. Like I said, Nick Suss will be with us from the Tennessean coming up at 6:30. Brian Callahan speaking around 8:40 this morning. So we are going to do our very best, depending on when he walks up to the podium, to carry that whole thing live for you here on the show as we close out our show. So Brian Callahan will be addressing the media later this morning at 8:40, and we will have that press conference for you. Got the Rob Rant coming up at 7:45. All that ahead. We begin, Connor, with day number 1 of joint practices for the Tennessee Titans, which, according to the people who were there, and you and I were not one of those people.
Nope.
There were a lot of Titans media contingents that were down there. Didn't go very well for the Tennessee Titans. I'll just read a brief synopsis from our man Teron Davenport that says this, quote, "Overall takeaway from the first Titans practice today is not good. They seem sluggish to start offensively, a lot of balls on the ground. Struggled to run the ball in team period early, too. Meanwhile, Michael Penix and the Falcons cut up the Titans secondary. It's one practice, so no need to panic, but it wasn't good today." That was what TD had to say on day number 1 of joint practices between the Titans and the Falcons yesterday. So that does not sound good. And like he said, it's one day of practice. But there have been a pretty heavy sprinkling of less than inspiring practices, particularly from the offense, to this point in camp. And one thing that we've talked about in that is, all right, well, how much of that is the offense and a rookie quarterback and those guys struggling, and how much of it is maybe some pretty good play from the Titans defense? And when you see basically a breakdown by TD there, Connor, that shows the offense struggling the way that they did yesterday, that has been relatively consistent throughout camp, where Cam Ward is throwing interceptions and they're just not able to generate much. And then you couple that with apparently Michael Penix and the Falcons just lighting up the Titans secondary yesterday, that is not a very good feeling as a Titans fan.
I think that's kind of an oracle telling us this team's probably not going to be very good. I can kind of get past all the performance-related issues TD mentioned there, like the run game was weak and the quarterback didn't look good. The thing I can't get past is that they looked sluggish to start and just never rolled up. As an NFL team, especially on a visiting area for joint practices, should you not be a high-energy team from the start of practice? And that's kind of been an issue for the Titans throughout the preseason is the energy's just not there. Like, I remember the first day, D-Mace and I were both there, and we both agree, like, this does not look good. And it seems like it hasn't really improved from an energy standpoint throughout the entire preseason, really.
Yeah, the slow starts are interesting. Now, it's one thing to slow start, I guess, in like the first period of your team practice. But when you're going up against somebody else, like when you're in a competitive environment like we know some of these joint practices can be, that's not good.
Yeah.
And, Jeffrey Simmons, among others, talked about that yesterday. And basically, Jeffrey Simmons said, like, I'm tired of talking about it. Like, it's on – we're professional football players. Like, it's on you to come out here and be ready to go. And you shouldn't need anybody to talk to you about it. Like, it's – Cam Ward said something similar, a couple weeks ago of, like, if you need somebody to motivate you out here, you're probably in the wrong business. But clearly, like, that's a problem. And again, as more of this stuff comes out and we start talking about energy level and we start talking about, starting practices slow, all that sounds bad, but I can't help but wonder in the background if all that stuff just really means, the Titans look like they don't have any energy because they're not very good.
Yeah.
Like they just, you watch them and you're like, wow, this team's kind of lacking some energy out here. Is it that, or are they just not very good? Like they're just not as good as the teams that they're playing against. Now, offensively, that's when you start to get a little concerned by that because, again, I have never been a believer that the Titans' struggles offensively to this point in camp have been some great reflection of the Titans' defense. Like, You can't convince me that with the pass rush group that they've got out there and with a secondary that to this point in camp has not featured L'Jarius Sneed, that the Titans' offensive struggles in camp are because the Titans' defense is going to be the second coming of the 85 Bears out there, right? Like it just I've never bought that. So it leads me to believe that where they are right now with still, a few weeks before the regular season comes around, there's a whole lot of work to do.
Oh, yeah.
And I would say day one of joint practice, not very encouraging for the Tennessee Titans. Now, the good thing about this week is, last week it was one practice and done, and then you got into the preseason game where Tampa Bay basically elected to not play any of your starters. You got another day today. So you got another chance at practice to go out there today and respond and rebound, and we'll see if the Titans can do that. But I saw a lot of Titans fans yesterday, Connor, kind of reading and reacting, and, some on DVD were talking about this. It feels like this is rough right now for the Tennessee Titans in camp, which is not good.
I wouldn't go in expecting a good football team or a good record. I would honestly, if you were to ask me right now, I'd expect the Titans to pick in the top 5 because I don't think they're going to be very good. Now, one thing that has been good is, as we saw on Saturday, the connection between Cam Ward and Calvin Ridley.
And there's apparently a couple more instances of that yesterday.
Yes, from what I've read. What needs to happen, I think, is Cam Ward maybe needs to spread the wealth a little bit, venture outside of the safety blanket of Calvin Ridley. I understand he's a rookie quarterback and you need that safety blanket that is Calvin Ridley, but that will also help your chemistry on offense is if you spread the wealth, and that's on the receivers too. Get open, find ways to get open and haul in the ball. I'm just not convinced this offense is going to be good at all. The defense is going to be even worse, I'm convinced. I mean, they have no one to hit the quarterback. Outside of safety, there's really no depth on this defense in any positional group. And you kind of saw, granted, Simmons and Sweat didn't play on Saturday.
Yep.
That kind of factored into it. But you kind of saw the defense and what they're capable of on Saturday. And Femi Oladejo didn't look all that great. The inside linebackers were not good. James Williams made a play on special teams, but other than that, you didn't really see much out of that. So that's where my main worry is how this defense is going to look, because it doesn't look good right now, Robbie.
Oh, and what you don't want to see and hear about is, in particular, what TD talked about yesterday, and that is the Titans secondary getting carved up by Atlanta. Now, again, It's one day.
And Atlanta has a good offense.
And Atlanta's got a good offense, and, we'll see exactly a little bit more what Michael Penix actually is this year. But we know that generating pressure on the quarterback with the roster that the Titans have is going to be a very difficult thing to pull off this year. Like, the sacks are going to be hard to come by for the Titans this year. So what you hope to offset some of that is you get good play in your secondary to be able to cover maybe a little bit longer so some of your guys can get home and put some pressure on the quarterback. And to hear that the secondary basically just got shelled yesterday by Atlanta,
it's nice.
Not very good.
Good to hear.
615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. It apparently did not go very well for the Titans yesterday in day one of practices against Atlanta. We'll take your thoughts on that. Nick Suss from the Tennessean, who was there, will join us at 6:30. We'll get his opinion on what he saw as well. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game.
Talked about a slow start, and I guess you guys had that last week. Is there something that you, as one of the leaders, can you do something to make, like, not have a slow start like today?
Nah, TD, I think everybody just got to come out with a mindset. And I said it this morning, like, we could come out and hoorah, we could come out and yell, this and that. We grown men. It's a professional football. God's got to come out ready. We know, we knew they was going to come out prepared and ready to practice. It's practice. In the game, we started out slow. We saw it last season, down 28-0. So at the end of the day, we keep saying we starting slow. We started slow in Tampa, started slow in Atlanta. Like, it's time to start fast. At the end of the day, it's a lot of things that we keep saying this year, which I keep hating to go back to last year. We kept saying the same thing last year. So I think at the end of the day, we've been saying it forever. And that's one thing we kept saying last year. Say less, do more. Come out here and do it.
That's Jeffrey Simmons yesterday after practice. We've talked a lot about Jeffrey Simmons over the last couple of years here on this program. I agree with every last syllable of everything you said there. Like, yes, we can look to the leadership on the team, and we've talked a lot about that. We can also look to the coaching staff, and I have a feeling we're going to continue to talk about that throughout the year based on the way I think this might go. But, you are a professional football player. Get yourself ready to go. Get out there and get ready to practice. And, again, that's why I keep coming back to, how much of this is the Titans don't have energy or the Titans don't have the right focus or approach in practice, and how much of this is they're just not very good. There's right. I think there's probably more of a leaning to the latter there than we want to admit around here of the Titans look on paper like they're a bad football team. And at times when they get matched up against other teams, they get exposed for being a bad football team. That's more and more of what I'm starting to believe is going on.
Well, what I've learned about Jeffrey Simmons over the years is that he is the king of holding himself and the team accountable and then not making a change about it. So you can listen to him say, we're lacking energy and we got to come out here and start fast, but I'm not going to believe what he says until I see a change. And based on the Titans' past and how it's been for them, I have a hard time seeing a change coming anytime soon. Maybe that's the pessimist in me, but that's just how I feel about it.
Well, and I understand if you're a Titans fan out there, and you're trying to look for something beyond just the on paper roster of this group that ain't very good. It's well, what about the coach? How is it that we've talked about energy level in camp? We spent a lot of time in the offseason talking about Brian Callahan trying to get his group ready to go and getting all these games going and trying to get, up the competitiveness around there. And now we keep talking about either slow starts in practice, slow starts in a joint practice, lack of energy that some have observed around camp. And I definitely understand if you're a Titans fan, you hear that and you say, well, isn't something on the coach? Get your guys ready to go. And I agree with that to a certain extent. I also think if you got the right guys in your locker room, the coach really should not have to be the one to get you motivated to practice. It's the National Football League, right? You should be ready to go. You should be. And again, at this point in camp, we've been in camp for a couple of weeks now. And, if it's going up against your same team and your guys, I do think there probably reaches a point of monotony with all that where you're my God, here we are again, another day. We're going up against the same guys on my team where we're hitting my own teammates and I'm ready to hit somebody else. Well, guess what? Yesterday you were hitting somebody else and you come out slow that way. That's just that's not great. So if that happens again today, if we're talking today about, boy, the Titans sure are starting slow out there again, it becomes progressively more difficult for me to believe that's about mindset or approach. And it's just about these guys are not good. The talent level is just not good. And you look slow and you look unprepared when you are not as good as the players lining up across from you, which I think could be the case for the Titans quite often this year.
Now, I think some of that is Atlanta's offense in particular is a lot younger than the Titans defense. I mean, you have a young quarterback, you have a young tight end, or young receivers, a young running back, pretty much young pieces all around. So I could see a world in where they're faster and more energized. But to your point, Robby, you're in the National Football League. This is the highest level of professional football in the world. and you're not going to go out there and perform to your highest energy capability. I mean, that's ridiculous. And I think part of it too is, like you said, this team's not very good. And the Atlanta Falcons are a fringe playoff team, I think. And I'm actually very high on them this year to win the NFC South. So
Hot take.
hot take. I thought hot take was banned on this station. I thought.
No. Hot take.
Hot take.
There we go.
Yeah.
I like it.
I don't know. I'm high on them this year, but Titans' energy level is so low, and it makes me think, A, they're not good, and B, they don't really care that they're not good because they know it.
Let's head back to our 1025 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Jared in Spring Hill to the program. Jared, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Good morning, gentlemen. Yeah, I do think that it is a delicate balance between the coach and the player. And I don't know if y'all saw those video cuts yesterday of the team walking into Flowery Branch practice facility.
I did.
Yeah, and I don't know what your takeaways on that. I'd love to hear it because I got a couple things. But, to me, this team just they just looked defeated going into there. And then once I had the context of it was a slow, sluggish practice and all that beforehand. And then whenever I was able to get on social media later on in the day, I was like, all this footage had come out, I think from Tehran and others, right?
Yeah.
But they just looked like defeated, and and maybe it is. I think there's an argument that could be placed on both ends here. Of yes, you're a professional, but also too, it could be a coaching thing. But I just, this just is giving me less and less water to carry for Callahan moving forward. And it's just not really a great look because there's so much, there's just a lot of consistencies with this team, and they're not really the best consistency. So, I mean, again, I know it's early and everything else, but, I guess we'll see. But I wasn't surprised by seeing the body language on those guys yesterday. They just looked like they know they're bad. There's nothing they can do about it. Their coach is probably patting them on the back, give them all rah-rah speech. But I want to pass on that for a second and go to Simmons. I don't think that he's re-signing here because I don't think in 2 years, 3 years of his contract is 2028, right?
Technically. But yeah, he's going to want an extension before then. Yeah.
So, I mean, I think I'm really starting to feel pity for Simmons. And maybe I'm the only one, and I know he talks a lot of jive and everything else, but I'm really starting to feel for Simmons because he's probably not, he's not like an elite player, a part of the elite crust of the NFL, but he's right there underneath the top of the layer of the cake. You know what I'm saying? He's still a great player. And we have nobody even coming close to Simmons at any other position group. I feel like we missed our opportunity last year on the trade package with New York, and we got Cam Ward, yay, and a second-round defensive end that can't play. I feel like that we're going to have to trade Simmons because he's not going to want to come back here, especially if the team is going to be turned over yet again, and the organization in the front office is going to be turned over again. So, what do you all kind of think on that? Do you feel sympathy with Simmons in this situation? And have a great rainy Friday, people. Tighten up.
Thank you, Jared. Appreciate it. Well, a couple things on that. Number one, it's Wednesday, so it's not Friday.
It's not rainy Friday.
Yeah, keep that in mind. It is Wednesday. So if you're
Wish it
hoping
was
it's Friday out there, it's not. Here, on the Callahan front real quick, whether the slow starts or lack of energy or whatever's going on or whatever you want to call it, which again, I think is more and more starting to be, they're just not a very good football team. Regardless of what you think it is, it does not reflect well on Callahan. And I've said this before, I think obviously with it as horrible as last year was, he survives and he gets to have his new quarterback now and see what he can do. But the microscope, certainly from the fan base, and I think to a certain degree from the front office, is going to be pretty tight on Callahan this year, to the point where, whether it's his fault or not that these guys are coming out and either starting slow or don't appear to be motivated or whatever you think's going on out there, it's going to come back on him at some point, right? I said it last week. if he's going to survive this, yes, Cam Ward has to play great, and that's the most important part of this is the development of Cam Ward. But he's got to show some things as a head coach this year to get this group to elevate. Like, he's got to show that he's got something special to him, why he was hired. Like, he's got to show that this year. And if we're talking, and we all understand that this team is not talented and that they're not going to be some playoff contender and that they're not, they're not going to finish 11-6 this year. We all get that. But if they're just completely awful again and they're lifeless halfway through the season, then I don't know how you look at your head coach and don't make a change there. Like that, there's a lot on Callahan from that part of it that they got to get figured out. We'll pick this conversation back up and get to a couple other points that Jared brought up there coming up at 6:45. Coming up next, we'll be joined by Nick Suss from the Tennessean. We'll get his thoughts on what he saw in day one of joint practices down there in Atlanta. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Connor Newt, Ian Safar here with you on this Wednesday morning. Looking ahead to day number 2 of joint practices between the Titans and the Falcons. And to help us talk more about that, we head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And welcome in our friend Nick Suss, who does a great job covering the Titans for the Tennessean. Nick, good morning, man. How we doing?
We're good. We're good. How are y'all?
Doing awesome, man. Appreciate you taking time to be with us this morning. So it sounds, Nick, like things did not go very well for the Titans yesterday, which is frankly starting to becoming a theme, especially on the offensive side of the ball. You were there, so you tell us. What did you see yesterday from the Titans? Maybe more importantly, what did you not see from the Titans? What were your impressions from day one?
There is a definitional conversation that I like in media criticism, which asks, does something being bad mean it has a surplus of negativity or an absence of positivity?
I like that.
Yesterday, I would describe as a day that was absent of positivity. I wasn't looking around and seeing sloppy football. I wasn't looking around and seeing a lot of negative plays, a lot of terrible plays. I just wasn't seeing anything exciting. I wasn't seeing anything that inspired me to say, wow, yeah, that's a step forward. And so I think when you're seeing and hearing and reading these descriptions of yesterday's practice, we need to frame it that way. And we need to frame a lot of what has happened at Titans training camp that way. When we're talking about bad, we are not necessarily saying, oh, they're making mistakes. Oh, they are doing these things that are preventably bad. It's just hard to get excited about what the team is doing right now. And maybe that is by design. The joint practice in Tampa was designed to be a lot of checkdowns, a lot of short passes, a lot of quick throws, and it looked fairly positive. And then they do a similar thing here in Atlanta, and it didn't look that positive offensively. I'm going to spend time with the defense today. I checked out the offense more yesterday, so I can speak more about what the offense was doing. But yeah, it is a situation where I hesitate to be like, oh, this was awful. Oh, this was bad. Because I think the connotation of that for most people means something's broken. Whereas the way I'm seeing it is they're just not explosive yet, and they're just not making big sack plays, big turnover plays, big game-changing plays on defense, and they're not moving the ball in an explosive way on offense.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. So to that point, like, I think on the offensive side of the ball, especially, Nick, like it's a rookie quarterback, right? So
right.
I think you had to expect some of this in camp and even some of this as the regular season begins there's going to be some growing pains that we see along the way. So like the offensive part of it, I guess, really doesn't surprise me all that much. Now we've talked a lot through camp of, the offense maybe not being explosive yet, how much of that has to do with the Titans defense. And when I hear like Teron Davenport yesterday said basically the secondary got shelled by Atlanta. When I see that, I'm like, well, I know on paper this group does not have, enough pass rushers to get after the quarterback. And when you're talking about a secondary also getting shelled, that does scare me to death if I'm a Titans fan, thinking about what that could mean for the defense.
Yeah, I mean, look, when your defense is built in a way where you don't have outstanding one-on-one winners at pass rush, you need to be able to counteract that with corners who can win in press man coverage. And that's how the defense was built coming into last season. You looked at it, you had Snead and Awuzie on both sides, and then McCreary in the slot and Jarvis Brownlee as a depth option. Now Snead's hurt, Awuzie is not here, Brownlee has been elevated to a de facto number one, McCreary's still in the slot, and you have Darrell Baker and Marcus Harris and some of these guys competing for that last job.
Yep.
That's a lot less experience. That is a lot less expected talent. And I'm not blaming it on the corners because the problem is still the lack of pass rush skill. But the way to mitigate that lack of pass rush skill has been diminished. And this is a Titans offseason that we all watched unfold in time. And we all knew in time the emphasis was on building up the offense and building up the offensive depth. That doesn't mean they ignored the defense, but to a certain degree, they didn't have the resources to go find defensive depth in addition to the starters. So they're a little bit surface level on this defense right now. And I've kind of been banging that drum for a few weeks now of once you get past the starting 11 on this defense, there really isn't much. And if you're factoring Snead into that 11, yeah, the secondary is going to be a concern, or the cornerback play is going to be a concern. And you're going against a Falcons offense with Drake London and Kyle Pitts and a lot of really, really talented guys on the perimeter. So it's not a surprise fundamentally when it is a bit of a struggle to do the thing that you fundamentally need to do in order for this defense to work.
Talking to Nick Suss of the Tennessee. And Nick, you said you've spent a lot of time with the offense yesterday, and one position group I've seen being talked about a little bit more positively is the offensive line. Can you speak a little bit on the offensive line and what they've been doing, maybe not completely perfectly, but right to some extent?
I like the unit right now. And like I would say yesterday was one of the first days where I noticed there were clear and obvious run holes available. Tony Pollard had a pretty solid day, and it's thudding. They're not going to the ground, so who knows? Maybe these were 2-yard gains instead of 8-yard gains, and practice limits it. It's so hard to say in these joint practices, but I think that even without Lloyd Cushenberry back in the lineup yet, there is some positivity around the way the unit can play as a run-blocking unit. And then I think there was 1 or 2 plays yesterday that I would have called true quarterback pressure situations, and Cam threw the ball 29 times yesterday. The Falcons aren't famous for their pass rush, and anyone who's followed the NFL and the draft in the last 3 or 4 years knows how much the Falcons have kind of ignored building up that position. But they did pick a first rounder this year, James Pierce, and I think they've got maybe another early round pick in the position as well. I think they started putting some talent towards it. And again, 29 dropbacks for Cam and 2, maybe 3 pressures. It is a stronger unit. And I've been saying this all off season, but the jump from 32nd to 16th is a lot bigger than the jump from 16th to 1st. The 16th to 1st is probably more valuable, but you're going to see much more gigantic results going from bad to average. And if that's what the Titans can do this year, that is a huge, huge win.
Yeah, for sure. And, Cushenberry, I'll be honest, I didn't know heading into camp when we'd see him coming off the Achilles, but the fact that he's already back out there and is off PUP, I think is a great sign. So we'll see what that means for him and his availability early in the year. But, just to see him back as quickly as he is, not knowing exactly what that was going to look like heading into camp, how big of a shot in the arm is that for Bill Callahan and this offensive line group?
Oh, that's big. And that's not to take anything away from Corey Levin, who I think is doing a pretty stellar job of filling in for Cushenberry. But look, this is a guy who the Titans paid to be one of the 5 highest paid centers in the NFL. And it's not like last year he played like a top 5 center. Last year there were some growing pains, and he will admit that there was a lot of learning to play with the expectations and learning to play in a new scheme. And there were some growing pains. It's not like he was giving up sack after sack after sack, but he wasn't perfect. And now, talking to Lloyd, he has doubled down on the commitment to focusing on the football side, to being the professional that the Titans need him to be. And he's also spent these 9 months crafting his body, doing what he can while the Achilles was on the mend. Like, he is a transformed player to an extent. And that is a huge win for a guy who was already expected to play like a top 5 center in the NFL. So if you have that plus Peter Skronsky is a guy who I think could ostensibly be the best player on the Titans offense right now, just the way he's performed in camp. And you've got a transformed Latham, and then you have a really steadying presence in Kevin Zeitler, and then Dan Moore is the great unknown. But again, if he's 16th best in the NFL, that is a massive upgrade over the tackle you've replaced in this offense. So, yeah, it all stems from Cushenberry, but I do think this line can be better.
Nick, last thing here for you before we let you go. We know you got a busy day today. Appreciate you taking time to be with us. I'm not going to ask you like when you think we're going to see L'Jarius Sneed, because I don't know that the Titans even really know the answer to that question. But I'll just ask it this way. How do you view his situation right now, where it just looks like practice doesn't even look like it's within the scope of reality for him right now? And then I guess he's just expected to step out there in week 1 and to play at a really high level. Like, I'm struggling to get there with L'Jarius Sneed. How do you kind of read this whole thing?
It's going to sound glib, but the thing I've been saying over and over again is I'll see him when I see him. I'll believe it when I believe it.
Yep.
Like, I am no longer in the market. I have removed myself from the market of speculating about L'Jarius Sneed. I will tell you what I see from L'Jarius Sneed when I see something from L'Jarius Sneed. He has practiced maybe 10 times since the Titans traded for him.
Yep.
He has played in 5 games since the Titans traded for him. There have been moments when he looked like the guy the Titans traded for. There have been a lot of moments when he didn't look like the guy the Titans traded for, and there have been significantly more moments where it has been impossible to tell because he's not on the field. So you ask my read on it, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter my read on it. What matters is eventually, theoretically, he will be back on a football field. And when he is back on a football field, I will tell you what it looks like.
Fair enough. I like it. Nick Suss, great stuff as always, man. Appreciate you taking time to be with us. Enjoy joint practice number 2 down there today, and we will talk to you soon, my friend.
Appreciate y'all.
Absolutely. Nick Suss from the Tennessee does a great job covering the Titans for that outlet. We will react to what Nick had to say coming next. A lot of your Titans thoughts to get to. There is some breaking news on a contract front in the NFL that we'll get to as well coming up next. All that coming up. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. This September, Tim McGraw will be performing at Trinetics' Rock the Cradle in Nashville, a meaningful event supporting newborns and moms at Ascension St. Thomas Midtown. You can get your tickets now at rockthecradlenashville.org. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHunting.com. Appreciate Nick Suss from the Tennessean for being with us in that last segment. Connor, before we pick up where Nick Suss kind of left off there, I do have a contract that has gone down in the NFL. Ian Rappaport, among others, putting it out there that James Cook and the Buffalo Bills have agreed to a 4-year, $48 million contract extension, $30 million of which is guaranteed. So James Cook has not been practicing at the running back spot for the Buffalo Bills and now has finally agreed to terms with a new contract. So he will be back out there 4 years, $48 million, $30 million of which is guaranteed. So James Cook gets his deal in Buffalo. The Bills get their running back on the field up there. James Cook last year had 207 carries, 1,009 yards, and 16 touchdowns. 16 touchdowns.
Good for
on
him.
the ground for James Cook last year. So, again, like those rushing totals aren't really going to blow you away. Like, it's not like James Cook is some 1,500-yard back. He had 1,100 yards 2 years ago, just over 1,000 last year. He has been pretty durable. I mean, he played in 16 games last year, played in 17 games the year before that. So he's been a pretty durable back to this point in his career. And now he's got his new deal in Buffalo.
I mean, good for him. He's a good young back. He fits that offensive scheme perfectly. But I think based on those stats you read and based on actually watching him play, he's more of a goal line back. That's why his touchdown numbers are so inflated in contrast to his actual rushing numbers. But he fits that offense so well. Good for James Cook. I'm excited to see a young back keep it going.
So Buffalo keeps the band together, and they avoid problems with their running back heading into the regular season. And we'll see if this is finally the year where they break through in the AFC. I thought several interesting things from Nick Suss there in that conversation. He kind of framed the offense and says, it's not really that the offense is making a ton of mistakes out there. It's just that they're not really doing anything overly explosive, right? Like there are very few what I would call wow plays that the offense are making out there, which again, to a certain degree with a rookie quarterback, I have that expectation coming into camp. Like it's going to be a process. We got people in the YouTube chat, like K-Dot in the YouTube chat says, good Lord, let's get to some games where we can see how much they actually are horrible or rather than just like overanalyzing practice. And I could not agree more. Like this is one of my least favorite times a year of just dissecting practices all the time. We don't have actual games to go on, but it's all we got to go on right now. So we talk about it. But like I can deal with the offense having ups and downs throughout camps. Now, frankly, I would probably have liked to have seen more ups at this point. Than we've seen from the offense. So that part of it is concerning to me. But again, like he talked about the defense, and I think it's a good point. There are certainly some questions for the defense, even amongst their starters. Like, edge rusher, I have no idea how they're getting after the quarterback. If Snead isn't out there playing, I don't like their corner room right now. I think it's got like Brownlee was a good story last year. Like if Brownlee's your number one corner, I don't know that that's a very good thing. So there's a lot with the starters to pick apart. But he is right. Like you get beyond that. And other than safety, where I think they've got some intriguing depth right now, there's like no depth. There's very little depth on this defense. And again, we talked about the defense earlier. Like I can see a scenario where they're just not very good. Like the defense is not very good. And that is not good for a young quarterback. That's not good for anybody involved there. So that to me was the more concerning development of yesterday rather than the offense, which I think we knew was going to be a work in progress.
Yeah. Kind of to speak on you saying a defense is not good for a young quarterback. You're right. Because that would teach a young quarterback, you got to play from behind pretty much every game. It's not good for the mentality, but like you said, there is zero depth outside of safety on this team. I mean, the cornerback room, Jarvis Brownlee is not a number one cornerback. Then you have Roger McCreary. And who else do you have? Marcus Harris, who you just drafted in the 6th round. I wouldn't feel good about trotting out a 6th-round rookie as a starting corner. You got no one to hit the quarterback. Femi Oladejo, obviously, they want to tell you is ahead of schedule, but you saw him in the preseason game on Saturday. He didn't do anything.
Needs work. Yeah.
You got 2, defensive tackles that don't hit the quarterback. They stuff the run okay, but I wouldn't go so far to say, as Jeffrey Simmons says, nobody runs on the Tennessee Titans, because they do, in fact, run on the Tennessee Titans. It is something that happens. But it's just zero depth. You look at this defense on paper, and there's just no light at the end of the tunnel for you. You kind of expect mediocrity.
Well, they're a football team. And again, this is not new. They're a football team that we know is a work in progress. And the most important part of that to fix this offseason was the quarterback and was the offense. So I can live with that, right? Like I can live with you not being exactly where you need to be or want to be defensively. Now, I'm watching Oladejo very closely, because to me, if you're taking an edge rusher in the 2nd round, like, he needs to be a guy that can come in and can contribute immediately, even if it's not his best level immediately. But he needs to be able to play for you. And look, it's training camp. So if Femi Oladejo isn't ready to get out there and be a huge contributor week 1, I can probably still live with that. But as the season goes on, you need to see some pretty dramatic improvement from him. Like, he's got to reach a point at the end of the year where you're feeling pretty good about what you've got there in him. And I'm not saying that he's got to have, 7 sacks or whatever it is this year, but like there needs to be some pretty steady progress for a guy that I think we all feel like's a project that got taken in the 2nd round. You're still talking about a 2nd round pick at that point. So I can live with all that, but the Snead thing is still just what gets me. Like, they made the Snead trade, and I realize the general manager who made that trade is gone now. But it still feels like we're waiting on him to just magically appear week 1, having not practiced at all.
Yeah.
And to go out there and play high-level football. And I just don't know that, like, the more and more I think about that and for how long it's been since he played, like, I don't know that we're living in reality with that. Like, do we think that Snead is just going to step on the field in the Denver game, having not practiced at all, having not played football in a competitive setting in almost a full calendar year, and he's just going to be some shutdown corner out there?
Yeah.
Maybe he can prove me wrong. I have no idea.
I
But
think
that just, how often do we see that happen in the NFL?
I think Nick put it perfectly, that he's stopped, expecting to see L'Jarius Sneed on the practice field until he sees it. He said, I'll tell you what he does on the field when I see him on the field. I'm in the camp of, I wouldn't expect to see L'Jarius Sneed anytime soon, if at all, in a Titans uniform. I
mean, I can't blame you for that. Like, it's, I said it yesterday, it continues to be amazing to me that in the span since we've last seen L'Jarius Sneed play football for this team, in anywhere, on the practice field, anywhere, that Lloyd Cushenberry, a 300-some-odd pound offensive lineman, has torn and fully recovered from an Achilles. Like, it's amazing to me.
Which is a very difficult injury to recover from.
It's especially for a guy that big. Like, it's amazing to me that that's what we're talking about here, but that's where we are. Well, there's a couple thoughts on the Cam Ward front that I want to get to coming up next. We'll continue to take more of your thoughts. 615-737-1025, our phone number. There's an interesting story in college football that we will get to later next hour as well. All that coming up. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley alongside Connor Newt. Ian Safar here with you live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Joe Rexrode out today. He will be back tomorrow. It is not gout related, as we've been asked multiple times. No gout for Rexrode today, I don't think.
And no deer.
No deer.
No deer wreck.
That's
don't
true.
believe.
I mean, I guess
either.
I also have to factor that in.
Is
Glad
it
you brought
Creed
that up.
related? Do we know?
Too late listening to Creed, huh?
I can't.
I
Has
don't think
Scott
they're in
Stapp
town.
invaded his home or something?
I can't confirm or deny that. So I don't know.
Oh,
I mean, I'm not going to take that off the list of possibilities, but I don't think gout is a problem. Don't think deer is a problem today. So that's been the last 2 culprits of when he's missed shows. So, yeah, a little bit improvement from Rexrode. Good stuff there.
we're developing.
We are. We're developing here on the program. Brian Callahan will speak later this morning. He is scheduled to speak right around 8:40. If recent trends are history, it'll probably be a little bit later than that, maybe 8:43, 8:44, somewhere in that neighborhood. So we will hopefully carry that entire press conference live for you here to close out our show. So looking forward to that. Got the Rob rant coming up later this hour. We will get into a pretty crazy story in college football regarding John Mateer, quarterback in Oklahoma, a little bit later this hour. But there are some Titans thoughts rolling in that I want to get to, so take more of them, 615-737-1025. One texter said, I think like Connor said, this type of performance against a team that will probably win their division shouldn't be surprising. This team sucks, and they're looking like a huge, huge mistake not taking the Giants deal, no matter what kind of quarterback Ward turns out to be. Now, a couple things on that front. So we talked about that's the second time the Giants deal has come up today. So Jared from Spring Hill called in last hour talking about that too. I totally disagree with the second part of that. Like, no matter what quarterback Cam Ward turns out to be, well, if he turns out to be a great quarterback, then there's really not a deal I would accept from the Giants, right?
And they think he will.
And they think he will, so that's why they didn't take it. Now, are they going to end up being right? That's a completely separate discussion. But if the quarterback is what you think he is, like if Cam Ward turns into what the Titans clearly believe he is, then the price that the Giants were offering you is not enough. Like I don't think that that's debatable, right? Now, if Cam Ward isn't very good, certainly we're going to look back at what the Titans were offered and say, would they have been better off taking that deal and maybe trying to figure out quarterback either later in that draft or in another draft next year. So that's something to keep an eye on for sure on the Giants part of it and how good or not good Cam Ward turns out to be. The Ward part of this, we talked a lot about him yesterday, the footwork, some things that still need work that we're going to see hopefully improve as things go on here. The one thing I really like about him, he's thrown a lot of picks so far in camp, which obviously you don't want to see. It does not seem like that has made him gun shy or has affected the confidence level to this point. Like mentally, and we'll find out when the actual games are played at the NFL level, because that's ultimately when you know.
Yeah.
But I do think a big part of playing quarterback in the National Football League is mentally being made of the right stuff. And I think he's got some of that with him that you can see. And so, swagger, whatever you want to call it, like you can see it. And obviously you don't want him throwing interceptions to the degree in which he's thrown interceptions so far in camp. Like somebody said, if Cam has 20 plus interceptions, regardless of the other stats, is that a failed rookie season? Yeah, you don't need your quarterback throwing 20 picks. And I doubt very seriously that he's going to throw 20 picks this year, but we'll see. But if he does that, that's not good. Like you got to take care of the football. But like I said it yesterday, you're going to have some bad plays from him this year where he throws an interception or two in a game where you're like, whew, did you just not see the guy there? Did you think that you could fit something in when you can't do that in the NFL? Like that's going to happen probably multiple times with Cam Ward this year. I also think we're probably going to see some throws from him that you leave you watch the replay and you're like, how in the world did he fit that ball in there? Like, how in the world did he get that football to Calvin Ridley on that play? And I hope the confidence stays there. Like, I think it's hard to coach confidence. Like, you either got it or you don't. It's hard to coach, having that it factor or that swagger, whatever you want to call it. You've either got it or you don't. And I think what you can coach is guys who have that, trying to rein in their decision making a little bit more. And I think we've seen countless examples of that in the NFL, of guys that step into the league. They're a little bit more of risk takers, and you coach some of that out of players. I really like what seems to be the case with Cam Ward, that mentally he doesn't really seem to get affected by much, because I think there have been a lot of quarterbacks around here, certainly Marcus, I think certainly Levis, that mentally got rattled. And that's probably the thing. And again, he hadn't played a game yet, so we'll see. But from everybody you talk to, from everything that I've seen so far, it doesn't really feel like Ward gets rattled all that much. And I think that's a really important trait to have.
Yeah, I mean, you heard him say it, the phrase that has never been used in the history of football before until he said it, when he throws a 4-book game, that he will not be rattled. I've never heard the term book until he said that. But you're right. He's going to make some mistakes because he's a rookie quarterback. That's what they do. He's going to test the limits of what he can and can't get away with. And I think he's doing that some in practice too. Notice how most of his interceptions come across the middle. That was Cam Ward's game at Miami, throwing across the middle to Restrepo or the tight end, Elijah Arroyo.
Yep.
That's his game. The hashes are closer together in the NFL. So it's a tighter seam and it's harder to fit that through. That's why you see the inside linebacker picking him off, or some of them he just gets unlucky. Like I was reading yesterday, there was one pick he threw that just got tipped up in the air and picked off by AJ Terrell of the Falcons, the corner. So I think most of it right now is he's just kind of testing the limits, testing the waters, and seeing what he can and can't do. And that's good. You want to see that from a rookie quarterback. And you also want those mistakes, because if he makes those mistakes, that means there's room to grow. If he was out there just completely perfect in preseason, I honestly would feel worse about his season, because he has no room to grow. You kind of expect him to go in and just carve up a defense with no mistakes whatsoever. That's unrealistic to think about because it's a rookie quarterback. So if he were to go without throwing an interception this whole preseason, like Marcus Mariota did, and then guess what? Mariota goes out in the first game of the preseason and his first pass is picked off, I would not feel as good. I'm not saying I feel completely perfect about Cam Ward right now, but I do like seeing him make mistakes, and I like that he is having the mentality of, yeah, I'm going to make mistakes, but it's not going to faze me because I'm still going to be a great quarterback in the NFL.
Now, I've just looked up on StatMuse quarterbacks, because we had the 20 interceptions. Somebody responded like, you don't think that he's going to throw 20 interceptions? He's throwing interceptions every day in practice. I'm like, well, it's not every day, but it is most days to this point. He's thrown interception, which I totally agree is not what you want. But I mean, I'm looking it up. I don't think there's been a rookie quarterback to throw 20 interceptions since Deshaun Kaiser did it in 2017.
That's your boy.
And I don't think that Cam Ward is going to be in the same breath as Deshaun Kaiser. I could be wrong. Like, Deshaun Kaiser threw 22 interceptions in 2017. Geno Smith threw 21 picks as a rookie in 2013. Stafford had 20 picks in 2009. And the most famous example for sure is Peyton Manning in 98, who threw 28 picks. That's a heck of a number that I don't know will ever be broken. Thank you, Bev. Don't think that number will ever be broken. What I'm saying is 20 picks is a lot, man. It's hard to throw 20 picks in a season in the NFL unless your name is Jameis Winston and you're just trading touchdowns and interceptions.
But Lord, deliver him from pick sixes.
Exactly. So the answer is, yeah, if Cam Ward throws 20 picks this year, that's pretty darn concerning, regardless of what the other stats would tell you at that point, would be my answer.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I don't think you're going to get to that volume of him. I don't think he's going to go out there and throw 20 picks.
20's a lot.
20
I
is
mean,
a
if
lot.
they're behind a lot in the game, like if game flow and how the game is just going throughout the season, if they're going to be trailing in a lot of these games, he's just going to have to throw a lot.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
And
I think they may be trailing a lot.
And I think that's going to lead to, maybe some interceptions that the number might be a little bit more inflated than the play would indicate, just because they're in such garbage time and they're in comeback mode and what
inflated
that could
stats.
mean. Yeah.
Right.
So I wouldn't be surprised if he hit 20, honestly.
Well, let me tell you, if he hits 20,
the city will melt down.
it's not good. Like there will be some concern at that point. Again, 20, as I'm going through this, 20 is a hard number to hit in the NFL. In today's NFL, 20 is a hard number to hit.
Yeah.
For interceptions thrown. Again, it according to the research I'm doing right now, a rookie quarterback has not done that since 2017. So you're talking about 8 years. And that was Deshaun Kaiser on an awful Browns team.
Maybe the worst team ever.
Yeah, maybe at some point, they just decide to run out the clock in some of these games.
I don't know.
If it gets that bad.
There's no doubt, like right now, based on the number of picks he's throwing in camp, like I don't think that's totally meaningless. Like I'm not just going to brush that aside.
No, yeah.
Like he's got to take care of the ball better. I think what you hope from that is like what he is seeing when the regular season begins. And again, Orlovsky did a really good breakdown of this the other day. In the NFL, the defenses are going to change the picture on you a lot from what you see before the snap and to what they actually end up doing after the ball is snapped. Can you recognize that? And how much better with the more game time that he gets, how much better from the start of the season to the end of the season does Ward get in recognizing some of that? I think that's a big story of what his season is going to look like this year, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, he's got to learn from it. He's going to make mistakes. He's going to throw interceptions. It's just life in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes is going to throw interceptions. But it's about how you adapt to the game and how you learn from it. And I think Cam has a good mentality to do that.
615-737-1025, our phone number. More your Titans thoughts to get to. We will get to the John Mateer situation in college football a little bit later this hour as well. All that coming up. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Later today on 94.9 The Fan, the Sounds taking on Durham with first pitch at 5:35. Coverage also available on the Game Nashville app and at theGameNashville.com. Sounds baseball on 94.9 The Fan, presented by Twin Peaks and Family Leisure. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. A lot of thoughts on Cam Ward to get to. Craig asking, how many of the picks do you think are Cam Ward just trying to make a play or seeing what he can get away with because it's camp? I think some of these picks are a product of that and are throws he would not make in a real game. I mean, to answer that question, I'm sure on a few of them that's probably been the case. Based on the description of most of them, I would say it's either somebody running the wrong route or it's Cam Ward trying something that is going to get him in trouble in a game. And whether that's intentional or not, I mean, I can't get inside the head of Cam Ward, but I mean, I could tell you early in camp, he was struggling throwing the ball over the middle of the field, right? And he was getting picked off by Cody Barton. And, there have been, I think, some miscommunications between him and Chig a couple of times that have led to some interceptions. And some of it's just, at times have been a defender going up and making a good play. So I think, if you ask a coach, you're going to get the classic, well, each interception has a story and life of its own quote out there. So, and look, there's some truth to that. But the bottom line is, regardless of what's going on, like the picks are coming too much in camp. Like we're reaching the point of camp where he's got to start to clean that up a little bit. And look, I'm totally with people who say I would rather him go through a training camp and learn from some of this stuff and get some of it out of his system before the regular season begins. I'm totally with that. But I think you need to start to see some evidence now of him getting that out of his system, right? Like, we need to string some days together here where you're doing a good job, if you're him, of taking care of the ball.
Right. And he's going to, because that's part of being an NFL quarterback, as long as he has the intuition to learn, like I think he does. And I think he does because he has gone to Cody Barton, who had his number early in the preseason, and said, what did you see on that pick? What was going through your head when I threw that ball? And Cody Barton will walk him through it. All right, here's what you did to tip me off and how I, pushed up the middle and got to the ball. I think he has that intuition to be better and to be great and to learn. But I'm with these texters and these people that are saying, I'd rather him go through the struggle now so he doesn't have it in the regular season. And let me tell you, he's going to have it in the regular season. They play in Denver week 1, which is one of the best defenses in the NFL and one of the toughest places to play. I would expect a pick or two there.
Well, look, I mean, he's going to throw some picks, man. Like, there's going to be some interceptions. Now, again, we had people specifically asking about 20. 20's a lot. And, and JD from Brentwood said, Levis and Rudolph combined had 21 last year. It's not as hard as you think. My response to that is, I would argue that the level of quarterback play that we saw from Levis and Rudolph last year is hopefully hard to replicate. Like, I hope Cam Ward is better than that. Like, I hope we're not talking about Levis and Rudolph type quarterback play with Cam Ward this year, because if we are, I mean, I'm not saying that you're giving up on him after 1 year, because they're not, but there's going to be a high level of concern if that's what he looks like this year. So again, I'm not concerned about like the 20 number specifically, because I think that's going to be hard to hit. But like, even if you're creeping up there towards like 16, 17, 18 picks, that's a lot of picks. Like, you don't need to be throwing one pick a game in the NFL. Like, unless you're counteracting that with 5,000 yards and 45 touchdowns, throwing one pick per game in the NFL is probably not going to lead to long-term success. Like, you've got to,
you're passing.
And look, he's a rookie. So you would hope that as a rookie this year, he's going to take some lumps and there's going to be some picks. And then as his career goes on, he gets better and better at taking care of the football. But yeah, like I as the season goes on this year, right out of the gate, that Denver defense is going to be a tough challenge.
Yeah.
Like, they will take the ball away from you if you are not on your P's and Q's about where you're going with the football. The Rams, aren't necessarily like, Denver in terms of their defense, but they're good. Like, they're good.
They can
defense.
get to the quarterback.
They can get to the quarterback, and you can get in trouble there. So like your first 2 weeks, first off with the offense that Sean Payton brings to the table and Bo Nix, and if you believe Sean Payton, Bo Nix is going to be unbelievable. So we'll see what that looks like firsthand in week 1. And then if Stafford is healthy in week 2, I think if you're Brian Callahan that the likelihood is you're probably going to have to score a lot of points in those games if you want to find a way to win. So that's going to involve your quarterback playing well and taking care of the football and not giving extra possessions to those offenses. With a defense that, as we've discussed, I'm not sure they're going to be able to handle extra possessions given to them this year.
Right. I'm wondering, based on, we just talked to Nick about it and things I've read about, if the offensive line is solid, like people are claiming they are. And I've seen it some. They've been good to an extent. Obviously, I saw them mostly without pads. But if they are solid, like they are saying, that would allow Cam Ward to have more time in the pocket, thus leading to probably better decision-making and more time to go through your progressions and throw the ball.
Well, you certainly hope so, yeah.
Yeah. I'm wondering if that's the case, would Cam Ward cut down on the interceptions in a real game speed?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I mean, look, the offensive line, I think, is going to be improved this year. Now, how much, we'll see. But it's going to be improved. Like, if they stay healthy, they're going to be improved. But, like, I look at their receiving room, and I'm like, okay, other than Ridley, how many guys do they have that can consistently get open? I don't know. Like, can Lockett still consistently get open? Can Io Manor, as a rookie, consistently get open?
Yeah.
I would argue, I think we know the answer to Van Jefferson. Like, Van Jefferson has been a fine player in his career. I don't know that I would describe him as somebody who consistently gets open. So if the offensive line is giving you more time, how much are your receivers winning out there? I think the one thing about the offensive line, if it's significantly improved, that you feel good about is that should eliminate some of the panic turnovers, right?
Yes.
Like, and I'm not even talking about Will Levis, type panicking where you're throwing the ball over the back of your head. But when the rush is coming quicker than you expect it to get there, and you're trying to get the ball out, and you're not really looking at where you're throwing the ball, like you're not really seeing what the defense is doing because you're worried to death about the pass rush. We see quarterbacks get into trouble with that all the time in the NFL. So if you can cut down on that, then yeah, I think that should help. But I mean, the bottom line is, like, Ward, I'm sure that some of this, and people are talking about this a lot on the text line right now, I'm sure there have been a lot of instances in camp where the Titans have wanted to try some things with him to see what he can do and get away with. But I also think there needs to, like, at some point here, the switch has to go off of, all right, we've tried some of that stuff, and now we got to start practicing like we're going to play in a game and taking care of the football. That's got to be a focus here.
Yeah. And it's worth noting that, portions of the Tampa Bay practice, and I'm sure portions of yesterday's practice, were scripted. So
For sure, yeah.
The defense knows what's coming. The offense knows what to run. So I'm sure, the defense has been told, what's coming, go make a play. That's probably part of it. But you're right. You got to be concerned a little bit about taking care of the ball and, cutting back on the turnovers a little bit.
615-737-1025, our phone number. Let's head to our 1025 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Kyle to the program. Kyle, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Hey, guys. I'm really enjoying the show today. I'm not scared to talk about how much we're going to struggle this year, but I was thinking, for the season's sake, would it be smarter to have Cam sit the bench for a little bit, and then if the season starts going bad, put him in to, at least say, hey, now we got a new quarterback in here. It's time to watch and learn a little bit and have some fun, versus what if he plays bad and we have to bench him, like a Bryce Young situation, put him down? Does that really give us any reason to watch the Titans anymore? That's just what I'm thinking, and, help his development a little bit if we just bench him for a while and let him sit and watch.
Thank you, Kyle. Appreciate it. I would answer it this way. Where their backup quarterback situation is right now, no.
Nope.
First off, unless it's unbelievably bad, and even then I still have my doubts, I don't think that there's going to be a scenario, barring injury, where Cam Ward is benched this year. Like, the Titans are not benching Cam Ward for Brandon Allen, right?
Nope.
Like, this is a team where I think everybody, particularly the front office, they know the score and they know that this is probably not going to be a very competitive football team. But like Cam Ward needs to play. Like I think Cam Ward needs to play. I think based on the rest of their quarterback room, and you got a little bit of a look at that the other day. I know it's a preseason game. It's not very good. Like Cam Ward's going to play. I don't even think that they are entertaining the idea of him sitting the bench to start the year.
I mean, it was kind of a narrative. I know where it came from, and I thought it was ridiculous when it came out at that time that Cam Ward should sit the first 2 games and come in the third because the first 2 are just 2 tough defenses. That's ridiculous to me because if you don't put him out against tough defenses, what is he going to learn in the NFL? If we sit him down because it's too hard and put Brandon Allen out there, who we saw the level of play he's capable of, you're not going to accomplish anything. So I can't get behind the idea of benching Cam Ward at any point in the season, but especially not starting him in the first game of the season. Like, I think that's ridiculous.
615-737-1025, our phone number. A crazy story in college football that's developed over the last couple of days that we'll get into coming up next. The Rob Rant at 7:45, all that coming up. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. This week's Nashville's best deal is Fat Bottom Brewing Company. Join Fat Bottom this Saturday for their Lucky 13 anniversary party at 800 44th Avenue North in Nashville. A full day of casino-themed fun, live tattoos from Black 13, face painting, balloon art games, and, of course, ice-cold beer. Get a $100 gift card, half off while supplies last at theGameNashville.com/deals. Plus, don't miss their Lucky 13 anniversary party this Saturday at Fat Bottom Brewing Company. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode. We'll have the Rob rant coming up here in just a few minutes. Connor, a pretty crazy story developing in college football over the last couple of days. So John Mateer, who is the quarterback at Oklahoma, he has transferred in. He's at Washington State the last couple of years, and he is one of the most exciting guys in the country right now when it comes to like looking at quarterback play this year. If you're looking at, potential dark horse Heisman candidate, like he could be pretty darn good for Oklahoma this year. Well, a couple of days ago, he found himself in the middle of controversy as screenshots of some Venmo transactions from, I believe, 2022 came out with him titling those sports gambling. And I think on one, he even said sports gambling UCLA versus USC in a payment that he had to somebody. Now, he was playing for Washington State at the time, and college athletes are not allowed to be sports gambling, not allowed to gamble on college football. So obviously that generated some attention. Yesterday, Mateer came out with a statement that says, quote, "The allegations that I once participated in sports gambling are false. My previous Venmo descriptions did not accurately portray the transactions in question, but were instead inside jokes between me and my friends. I've never been on sports. I understand the seriousness of the matter, but recognize that taken out of context, those Venmo descriptions suggest otherwise. I can assure my teammates, coaches, and officials at the NCAA that I have not engaged in any sports gambling." That was the statement that John Mateer put out there yesterday. So, Oklahoma has put out a statement that basically says they don't have any reason to believe that the NCAA is going to investigate this. I don't know where this is going. I have no idea if John Mateer is telling the truth or not, but it is interesting to me, like the moment he shows up in the SEC, like these Venmo transactions are from 2022 and nobody's ever noticed them. And the moment he shows up in the SEC, now they're all over the place.
Well, they were public, and it was revealed that whoever screenshotted them was a Texas fan. Yep. So there's the reason for that.
There it is.
I would advise John.
Nobody looking at the Washington State quarterbacks. Venmo's too close.
I don't think any Huskies were going after him while he was there.
Yeah.
I would advise John Mateer to make your Venmo transactions private.
I believe he's now done that. I believe that
which
has now
pretty good.
Been rectified.
That's good. I get where he's coming from. A lot of times, guys that age, because I've been guilty of it, when we do Venmo transactions, we will title it something very, very weird and very out of context, some of which I cannot say over the air, but I tend to believe him. I think that truly was an inside joke. And I'm sure his friends were like, oh, he's a freshman college quarterback at Washington State. Freshmen do stupid stuff all the time. Let's no one will ever find this. Yeah. So let's just say it was for sports gambling. And then sure enough, he comes to the top conference in the entire world, and it comes out. So I don't know. I don't think it's going to go any further. I don't think any action will be taken against him. That's just my thinking.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. First off, I don't know. I don't know if he's telling the truth or not.
Right.
I have no idea. Are they going to investigate this? How can you investigate it when it happened in 2022? I don't know. So we'll see what happens on that front. What I can tell you is, like, now that this has come out, I'm sure college coaches and their staff have talked about this a lot.
Oh, yeah.
But with how prevalent sports betting is now, I can guarantee you that in meeting rooms all across America this week, it's like, guys, I don't care if you've rolling your eyes at me right now. We've talked about this 1,000 times. You cannot do this. You cannot get involved.
I'm sure it was the unanimous saying across all meeting rooms across the country. I can't believe I have to say this, and then proceeds to tell them not to gamble.
I mean, look, maybe it was an inside joke. I have no idea. The sports gambling and then saying UCLA versus USC is pretty funny. Like if
It is
it's
funny.
like, well,
And it was
that's pretty darn specific there, John. What
Well,
sort of an inside joke are we telling?
well, the receipt was a day after that game.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is pretty funny.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I tend to believe him, but he could also be completely full of it.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
Like
we don't know. I don't personally know John Mateer, so I can't judge his character.
We're gonna see what happens on that front. Again, Oklahoma putting something out that they have no reason to believe the NCAA will launch their own investigation into the matter. Kind of sounds to me like wishful thinking. We'll see if the NCAA actually does. Now, as we know, even if the NCAA does, how quickly can they do an investigation? How much power does the NCAA have anymore?
Yeah.
All these things.
We'll find out John Mateer is banned from college football in 5 years.
5 years when he's in the NFL. Yeah, we'll see what happens on that front. But it is, for a team and a program that, to me, it's really interesting for them this year. Like, if they're not good again, then Brent Venables is probably going to get fired. Like that,
Oh, yeah.
You can't be bad at Oklahoma for too long before you end up losing your job. So, like, it's a huge year for that program. It's a big opportunity for him going to Oklahoma, playing in the SEC. He was a guy that, you start talking about the numbers, and if you go look at John Mateer's numbers, I mean, they'll blow you away. I mean, he's been really good at Washington State. Now, I think we would all agree the level of competition is about to go up pretty dramatically for him on a week-to-week basis. So we'll see how he handles that part of it. And I mean, you're talking about a guy last year that, threw for 3,100 yards, 29 touchdowns at Washington State. So we'll see. We'll see what it looks like. But that has been a big story in college football this week, is whether or not John Mateer participated in sports gambling.
Gets me fired up. 2 more weeks.
2 more weeks.
And we're there.
We'll see. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. The Rob Rant coming up next. We'll get back into your Titans thoughts in the 8 o'clock hour. Brian Callahan scheduled to speak right around 8:40 this morning. We'll have that press conference for you as well. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Hey, Robbie Stanley here. Fantasy football right around the corner. Twin Peaks, the place to be for your fantasy football draft party, and they've got great food there. You've got the double stack nachos, shareables, multiple flavors of boneless wings, loaded fries, and they've got you covered on all things fantasy football. Draft boards, player stickers, a $50 bonus card for the commissioner, $5 bonus card per league member. So call to book your draft party at the Twin Peaks and Cool Springs or Madison locations today. Visit twinpeaksrestaurant.com/fantasy draft for more information. Once again, that's twinpeaksrestaurants.com/fantasy draft.
Don't make me angry.
Sometimes you have to tell someone to pound sand.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
This is the Rob Rant. Now on Robby and Rexrode.
Everybody say we're going to lose all the rest of our kids for the rest of the time. Your whole network said we had no chance. There are, in fact, some horse troughs still in use at Neyland Stadium.
Must see PP.
Where's the discipline?
Yeah.
We need a hard ass in there.
It's awful out here. It's raining.
We're vibing, Robby.
It is that time of the day, the Rob Rant here on the program. You can check it out every morning, either the Rob Rant or the Rex Rant. Ian, Connor, I saw a new one yesterday. I've not seen this before. So I'll even name the place. Like I was, I had a long day of work yesterday, 3-hour radio show. Went to another job yesterday, did some things. And I was like, you know what? I'm kind of thirsty. So I pulled into the McDonald's drive-thru in Hendersonville. And I'm like approaching. I'm not really paying all that much attention. I'm listening to, I think at the time, Chase and Big Joe were on. So I'm pulling in. And all of a sudden, I look up in front of me. And McDonald's has got the 2 drive-through lanes, right? Like you got to pick a lane.
The double
lane.
McDouble.
And this truck is just stopped. Like before you even get to either one of the lanes, he's just stopped. I guess waiting to see which lane to pick, right? Like which there were 2 cars, one in the left drive-through lane, one in the right drive-through lane, and he was waiting to see which one left.
Who was going to go first?
So he could pick a lane, which I don't know that I've ever seen anyone do before. And frankly, I looked at it and I was like, dude, first off, now there's a line that's starting to form behind me and people can't back out of parking spots because you don't want to pick a lane. But just pick a lane, man. Like sometimes you pick right, sometimes you pick wrong, but you got to pick a lane, man. He wouldn't do it. And finally, 2 people behind me just swerved around all of us and cut in front of him and got into both of the lanes, to which they started, yapping back and forth at each other. And frankly, given the conversations that we've had here recently, I was thankful that it wasn't me this time that was having to yap at somebody, and other people took care of that. So I was just kind of sitting back and enjoying all this. But I did think to myself, well, idiot, that's kind of what you deserve. Pick a lane. Don't sit back here and clog up traffic because you're waiting to see which drive-through lane, which is probably going to be separated by a difference of about 11 seconds, goes faster for you. And so he got real mad that these 2 drove around him and got in the other side of the drive-through there. But I think he's fully at fault. I guess I'm more perplexed. Like I've never seen anyone do this before. Have you all experienced this? Like, have you seen somebody get to the double drive-through lane and just stop and not pick there? They're just
that's a new one,
floating out there in the middle of the drive-through parking lot.
Especially if there's
brother, you got to pick a lane, man. At some point, get in the lane.
There's only 1 car in each window.
Yeah.
It's not like you're going to be waiting a long time either way.
That is what I could not figure out. Like, yeah, there's a chance that if you go ahead and you pull in that left lane there, you might pick wrong. Like the one on the other side,
you might have to wait one extra person.
Yeah, like it might be another, I don't know, 17 seconds before you have to go blank your order. But man, that guy was hot. He was mad when those people pulled around. I haven't seen that.
The one that has been getting me lately, I don't know if it's, but at the gas stations, pumping at the gas pumps.
Yeah.
I have noticed multiple times recently people in their car at the gas pump, but not actually pumping gas.
They're just sitting in the car.
They're just sitting in the car.
Okay.
So,
yeah. I've seen
like
that.
I pull up and I'm trying to pump gas, but I can't pull up all the way because the truck is parked in the pumper right in front of me.
Yeah.
But they're not pumping gas. They're they're sitting in there eating their lunch.
Yeah, go in the parking lot.
Do you really get to sit for that and take up an entire pump to sit there and either talk on the phone or eat your lunch?
That drive me nuts.
At the gas pump?
Yeah.
When I can't go all the way. So here I am, as far back as I can go, stretching the hose as far as it will go to get into my car because I can't pull up any further.
Oh yeah.
Because they sat there the entire time while I pumped, didn't get out of the car, didn't do anything. They're just sitting in there eating. And then I drive away and the car is still there.
I mean, yeah, that would infuriate me.
And it happened twice in back-to-back weeks.
Get out of the space.
They're not getting out of the car. And they're just parking their car there and doing their either on the phone or eating at the pump,
Yeah.
but they're not pumping gas.
Get in the parking lot. Go to the parking space. You can eat. You can sit there as long as you want.
It's ridiculous.
And eat your stuff. I mean, look. I probably had over the last 5 years like 7 drive-through rants. So first off, I guess I need to quit going to places that have drive-throughs because apparently it's a trigger for me. But like, I've gone through the people that are in the drive-through that like place their car in park and then sit 6 car lengths behind the car in front of them, just clogging up there. It drives me nuts back there. There's a flow, a nice chain here that these things are designed to have. It drives me insane. But yeah, like yesterday, I could not believe he would not pick a lane with 1 car in each spot in front of him, and then was just flabbergasted that people went around him. I wasn't even the one that went around him. Like, I kind of regretted at the time that I wasn't the one that just immediately pulled around him at that point. I was just stunned by what I was seeing.
Yesterday,
frozen in time.
You're reminding me of my event yesterday. I live right off the exit. So you get off the exit, there's a light here and there's a light there. So it's an intersection.
Yeah.
I'm getting off the exit. There's this woman. Obviously, you have a traffic light. There's the white line that marks where you're supposed to park. This woman is parked maybe 20 feet in front of it, just sitting in the middle of the intersection.
Oh, yeah. Blocking the box, as PK would say.
Yeah. She was blocking the box. She didn't lock her locks. But we all had, like, there was a line behind me. We all laid on our horns, first of all. And then you got to make this wide turn left. So we all had to swerve around her, and she was hot too. She was, screaming and yelling. I'm like, lady, you're right in the middle of where everyone needs
it's your
to be.
fault.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
I love when people respond like when it's their fault, like that they get mad about something that's clearly their fault.
Come on.
It's one of my favorites. Ben says, it happens all the time in the drive-thru, but most people pick a lane as soon as a car comes in behind it. This guy did not. He was stubborn. He's like, I'm not going anywhere until I figure out which one of these 2 cars is going to go first.
Trying to choose wisely.
I'm not going. So then he ended up waiting longer than he would if he'd have just picked a lane because people passed him at that point. Eli says the fair sounds like Robbie's hell. Too many lines. Yeah, I'm not a big fair guy. Like I've been to the Wilson County Fair
that
a few
opens
times,
up soon. I think
and,
this
it's
week.
now the state fair.
Yeah.
And
you know this better than anyone. Like when you go to an amusement park or someplace, it's the people that just stop in the middle of an alleyway and just sit there and talk that drive me crazy.
Yeah.
I'm like, I got things to do.
Oh yeah, the stopping and pausing to talk for sure is not.
That's any
not
public
good.
place too.
But, the Tennessee State Fair up there in Wilson County. First off, elite people watching. Like you can get some high level people watching done there.
Characters.
But I've reached the age where like that's too much for me. I don't want to deal with that type of crowd.
I've never gone to the
there.
county fair. Never.
Really?
Yeah, not for me. I'm good.
Okay. I'd recommend you going at least once.
Yeah,
Ian tried to go down to Williamson County a couple weeks ago, and it just didn't.
We tried
happen.
the Williamson County Fair.
Didn't happen.
It was not a great experience.
Yeah,
it didn't happen.
Just seems like too many people for not enough fun.
One texter says, "I live in Hendersonville. Can't confirm that happens there. It's worse at the Chick-fil-A. They'll send out people to direct traffic if it gets too bad in the lanes there. I don't know what it is. Like we need people in Hendersonville to when you're in a drive-through." Make some decisions, baby.
Most of
Get in there and pick a lane.
Yeah, most of the drive-throughs now have gone to the double lane.
Yeah.
And so, it goes to the double, but then it merges back into the one.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets
people get mad about that too.
Get a little hairy.
Yeah,
like, no, I put my order in first. I'm going.
People
I
get
was
real
next.
mad.
This is where and then it's like, the people at the counter have to double check. They ask for your name now. In all these orders. So like when you get to the window, they double check, make sure you're not getting the wrong order. So I can imagine they've had some stories.
I would imagine so. But yeah, just
I can't say I have any.
Get up there, pick your lane. And if you don't pick your lane, don't get mad when people pass you. I don't know what to tell you. Well, I mean, you're not even really in the drive-through yet if you hadn't picked the lane. So
in my time,
that's on you.
In my time in Hendersonville, I can't say I've had any drive-through situations.
Well, be on the lookout. Be on the lookout.
So maybe next time I'm out there. The only thing I do is I mess with the Chick-fil-A workers, and I'll see how many times I can get them to say "my pleasure."
Jeez,
the record's 8.
That's a lot.
One person had to say that 8 times.
Yeah, me and my dad did it.
That is a lot. That is a lot. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. A lot more of your Titans thoughts to get back into coming up next. We will do that. Brian Callahan will be addressing the media later next hour, right around 8:40. So we will have that press conference for you as well. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley alongside Connor Newt and Ian Safar here with you on this Wednesday morning. Brian Callahan will be addressing the media before day number 2 of joint practices against Atlanta. That's scheduled to happen later this hour, right around 8:40, and we will have that press conference for you when it becomes available. So looking forward to that coming up later this hour. Right now, I got some tickets to give away, a 4-pack of tickets to PBR Stampede Days coming up this Sunday at Bridgestone Arena. Be caller number 3, 615-737-1025. Caller 3 will win a 4-pack of tickets to PBR Stampede Days coming up this Sunday at Bridgestone Arena. Connor, apparently day number 1 of joint practice for the Titans did not go very well for the home squad. The Atlanta Falcons offensively looked like they did what they wanted to do out there. Titans offense apparently struggled against the Falcons defense. Cam Ward threw a couple of interceptions out there. So obviously hoping for a bit of a rebound in day number 2. We heard in the update there what Jeffrey Simmons said about the slow starts and everything going on with that and how that's becoming a trend that they've got to find a way to reverse it. So we'll see if they can do that today coming up in game 2. One texter says this: what happens if the Titans end up with the number 1 pick again? That probably means Cam Ward had a so-so first year and the coach gets fired. Do you think the Titans draft another quarterback if Manning or one of the other guys is a much better prospect than Cam? Has anyone discussed this possibility? Sort of concerned this is not an unrealistic scenario for us. So, I mean, first off, lots going to have to play out for that to be the case. But, like, it's certainly not impossible
Right.
that the Titans could end up with a very high draft pick next year. I would be to me, it would have to be pretty bad from Cam Ward this year for you to consider that. Now, look, I guess there's always the scenario where you get the number 1 overall pick and you're doing your due diligence on the quarterback and you walk away thinking, look, whoever it is, I don't think Arch Manning's coming out this year, but let's just say for the sake of argument, he does. You get it, and it's like, well, we've got the number 1 pick, and Arch Manning is there, and we think he's going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback, and we have lost faith in Cam Ward. Well, at that point, then I would probably say, yeah, do it. I think that's a pretty extreme scenario, and I think that would probably require Cam Ward being pretty atrocious this year. Now, the other scenario in that discussion of, the Titans either having a bad enough season or Cam Ward not playing well enough to save the job of the head coach is something we've talked about a lot. I think that is a possibility heading into this year, and we'll see how they handle that. But I think it would take a pretty special set of circumstances for the Titans to be drafting another quarterback next year, to the point where, like, I would put the percentage chance of that at about 1.5%, and maybe that's even a little too high.
Yeah, no, you'd have to have a very, very special season in the bad way from Cam Ward. If the Titans were drafting high, I would argue they'd probably draft defensively because, as we know,
or a wide receiver.
One of those two.
Yeah.
Someone to hit the quarterback or someone to catch the ball. One of those two. They need help in both areas, but that's where I would amount high draft picks for the Titans for as far as team building. If Cam Ward has a solid season, chances are you're going to want to build pieces around him, and you want to have a good defense and you want to have a solid wide receiver you get through the draft. So
I think if you're going by just pure likelihood, the likelihood is at the end of Cam Ward's rookie year, you're probably not going to know for sure that he's your guy. Like, you're not going to know for sure that he's going to be some elite player.
Yeah.
You're probably also not going to know for sure that he's not good, right? Like, the likelihood overwhelmingly exists somewhere in the middle of those two things. Like, my guess is throughout this year, Cam Ward is going to have a few games where he plays pretty bad.
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa, not a very good week from Cam Ward. He's probably going to have a few weeks where he plays really, really well. And you're like, wow, what a game from Cam Ward. And the majority of the season is probably going to be somewhere in between that, where he's got some moments in some games where he looks great and some moments that don't go so well. And the totality of it is, Cam Ward was okay today.
Yeah.
Like, there's probably going to be a lot of that this year. I think the challenge is like when you're trying to determine the direction your franchise is headed, how do you sift through that? Like, how does what's around Cam Ward on offense, the defense, particularly if it struggles in the way we think it might this year, that has an adverse effect on your offense too, when your defense just cannot get off the field and is giving up points left and right. If the Titans turn into that, that's not good. I mean, there's context involved in all of it that helps shape the discussion. So it's not just as simple as, well, if the Titans are 4-13 this year, that must mean Cam Ward sucked.
Yeah.
There's a lot that goes into all that. However, like the likelihood is you're going to get to the end of this year and we're going to, as a market, probably err on the side of highlighting what Cam Ward did well. I've said this. If things go wrong this year, Cam Ward is going to be the last person who gets blamed.
Yep.
It's going to start with Brian Callahan, and then it's going to trickle down from there. We're going to get into all sorts of other things before we get into Cam Ward. So that's why I continue like the scenario of them being bad enough and him being bad enough where they're drafting, they're seriously entertaining the idea of drafting another quarterback next year. I don't think that that's much in the scope of reality.
Right. And, you draft a quarterback number 1 to a bad team. That opens the door for a multi-year assessment of, okay, is this the guy? I don't think you'll have your answer after 1 year. I think, like you said, you'll err on the side of positivity for the most part if things go bad for him. And Callahan will be blamed. And,
like Callahan's going to be the one that gets blamed.
And you'll be like, well, let's get a coach in here who can fix Cam Ward and build around him. And
no doubt.
That's just the cycle of the NFL. Yeah. That's how it works.
But and the bottom line is, there's a difference too between a number 1 overall pick and somebody like Levis, who was drafted in the second round. Like the number 1 overall pick is going to get more time. Like that's just the way it is. Like if you draft somebody number 1 overall, they're going to get more time. We've brought up, I brought up the Simmons clip from yesterday, and we've had a lot of people weigh in on Simmons today. And Jeff on the text line says, from hearing the short interview with Simmons, it sounds to me like he's had his fill of playing on this bad team. From the discussions on the radio I've heard about trading him, I bet he will not be on this team next year, possibly before. Look, that's going to be really interesting. Number 1, how bad are the Titans? Like, are the Titans flirting with being one of the worst teams in the league again this year, to the point where by the time the trade deadline comes around, that they're not doing anything, similar to how it was last year of, by the time the deadline came around, it's like, these guys aren't going anywhere. Does that happen again? And if so, how does Jeffrey Simmons play between now and then? Because, we've talked about this. There are some people that believe Jeffrey Simmons, if you traded him, could be worth the first-round pick. There are some people who don't believe that. I think PK did an exercise on that last year. And I think the general response he got from people around the league was somewhere in the neighborhood of a second-round pick, which I know some Titans fans were like, yep, do it. And others were like, no, I'm not trading Jeffrey Simmons for anything less than a first-round pick. So, I don't know exactly what that's going to be in terms of the quality that he brings and what that looks like. Technically, we brought this up earlier. Technically, he is not a free agent until 2028. So he's got this year left on his deal. His base salary in 2026 jumps up to $20 million. The cap number continues to go up the next few years as well. He's at a $22.7 million cap this year. And then according to Over the Cap, next year that moves up to 25 and then 28 in 2027. So from a contract standpoint, he's got, there's some time left here. But, if the production goes into what would basically be, I guess, a third year in a row at that point, and really kind of a fourth year in a row at that point, where it's not quite matching up with what you're paying him, how willing are the Titans to have those conversations? And look, I'm not going to discount what Jeff brings up on the text line either of like, does it reach the point with Jeffrey Simmons where he just gets tired of the losing and he wants out? I don't know. I don't think we're there yet, obviously. Like, they hadn't played a game yet. And, definitely, I think you could sense some frustration from Simmons yesterday on the way that some of these practices have gone. But by the time the trade deadline comes around this year, what sort of a situation are the Titans in? And does there come a point where Jeffrey Simmons just says, hey, man, I've had enough of this. Get me out of here.
Yeah.
I'm not going to discount that as a possibility.
No, I won't either. But as of right now, in this very moment, I don't think the Titans are even considering trading Jeffrey Simmons. I think, they're thinking he is the forefront of our defense, and he is probably our best player on our entire roster. So we'll keep him on this roster heading into a new stadium because that sells tickets. People are going to pay tickets to go see Jeffrey Simmons, especially if this team is good.
No.
So that's what I kind of think. Now, I can totally see a possibility, like you said, where if this team is so bad and Jeffrey Simmons isn't getting the kind of money he thinks he should be getting in an extension, then yeah, I could see a Micah Parsons situation where he demands out or something like that. But right now, I don't think that's even in consideration as far as trading Jeffrey Simmons.
There's a text on the text line about the defense that I want to get to coming up next that we'll address. Take more of your thoughts on the Titans at 615-737-1025. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game.
Calvin, when you go back and you look at the film and you see you're probably going to find a lot of things wrong, is that almost better in some ways than if you'd gone through and maybe the plays had been made, but yet there were mistakes that, you know?
We're going to go watch it, fix it. It's football. Football is not perfect game. Everybody wants the game to be perfect. The media makes the game seem like we got to be perfect. Everyone wants us to catch every pass, catch every block everybody. They got good players. We got good players. It's going to be, someone's going to do bad every play. We were on some of the bad ends of the plays. We're going to go look at it, fix it. But like I said, that's good for us. You know, we get better from stuff like this.
That's Calvin Ridley discussing the Titans. Says, hey, man, it's football. Imperfect game. You're going to have somebody playing bad on every play. Somebody's playing good. It's just the way it goes in the game of football, which I agree with. Good stuff there from Calvin Ridley. I fear the Titans may be the ones playing bad more often this year, but we'll see what happens on that front. Taking your thoughts on the Titans, 615-737-1025. Ed on the text line, throwing this question out there. Is there a massive overreaction to watching a defense that was missing 4 of their best players in the first preseason game and now concluding that the defense is going to be awful? I would answer that in a couple ways, Connor. 90% of this time of year is overreaction, would be what I would say.
Yes.
90%, because we're talking largely about practice. And I've made my thoughts clear on that. It's amazing to me the level of discussion we have about practice in this sport. But we do. Having said that, like, it's not totally meaningless. Like, you know, there are certain benchmarks that you need to see your team hit. And I think we've all watched enough NFL football to know that you can tell when there's a good team out there and you can tell when there's a bad team out there. And it's not always apples to apples. And sometimes teams that are one way to begin a year totally transform throughout the course of the year. And we've seen that firsthand. Like, I can't think of a better example than in 2019 when the Titans were absolutely cheeks to start the year. I mean, they're terrible to start the year. You make the quarterback switch, and that, coupled with a couple other things, led to a total rebound the other way in 2019 to the point where they ended up in the AFC title game that year. So, like, it can happen that way in the NFL for sure. I do think, though, like, specifically to the defense, it's not just the preseason game. Like, the preseason game was not good. You know, they got run all over by Tampa Bay's backups, and some of that was several starters for the Titans getting run all over by Tampa Bay's backups. They made Kyle Trask look pretty good out there. So, if you know, it's one preseason game, I'm not overly concerned about that. But I do think, like, when you just look at the roster, and look at edge rusher right now, and it's a big problem. Like, there's just no way to me that you can look at where they're at with their edge rusher group and not come away thinking, yeah, that's going to be a big issue for the Titans this year.
Yeah.
Like, it's just going to be an issue. And they're going to have a tough time, I think, getting to the quarterback. And if you got a tough time getting to the quarterback as a defense, you're probably going to have a tough time as a defense. And maybe they're better stopping the run this year. Like, they you know, that totally fell off last year, and we've talked about that. And certainly, if Sweat and Simmons are back in there and Barton is as good as they think he is, and they are pretty darn good at stopping the run, certainly that's going to help the defense. But, you know, when the practice comes out yesterday and the reports are that, you know, TD is throwing it out there that, you know, the Falcons are basically doing whatever they want to the Titans secondary yesterday, when you factor in a secondary that without L'Jarius Sneed has some question marks, and a pass rush that I don't even know if they're question marks. It's just lack of options. At pass rush right now, that to me just doesn't add up to good things defensively. Like, it's going to take an elite coaching job from Denard Wilson to make this defense a good defense, I think.
I mean, it kind of speaks to what we've been talking about, and that's the lack of depth they have on defense. As far as who's your edge rushers and who's hitting your quarterback, you got a rookie and a rotational piece in Arden Key who has his moments, but overall it doesn't really affect you much. Then after that, you got nothing. If they're a run-stuffing defense, then that opens up the pass game, and you don't have anyone to hit the quarterback. So I don't know. And secondary is even more of a problem because you're missing L'Jarius Sneed. Your best option is Jarvis Brownlee and Roger McCreary, and other than that, there's nothing.
There's not a lot there.
There's not a lot there. So my level of concern with the defense is pretty high. And based on what I'm hearing from practice and what they've been doing the past couple of weeks, it's continuing to rise to the level where I think they may be one of the worst in the NFL.
Brian says practice after practice, and now after the preseason game, we keep hearing it's just practice. It's just the preseason. Don't worry. Here's the thought I have. It's okay to look decent in practice and or the preseason games. You don't have to be trash constantly and then make excuses. I think we're in for a long year. Well, I mean, I cannot disagree with you or make you feel bad for feeling that way. Like, look, if I had to pick right now, and I'm not going to go game by game and do like a record prediction. I'll do that right before the regular season starts, I guess. Because for some reason, people love that stuff. But like, I don't think they're going to be very good. Like a hot take, I don't think the Titans going to be very good this year.
No,
like,
I mean,
I think their win total in Vegas is 5.5. They're over under. That's about right. Like, I think they're going to be pretty bad. And maybe they're not the worst team in the league. Like, we talked to Frank Schwab yesterday, and when you really look at New Orleans roster, like it's pretty bad, man. Like they're going to have a chance to be pretty awful this year. So maybe the Titans aren't the worst team in the league, and maybe the quarterback play eventually gets to the point from Ward throughout the year where it's good enough to elevate. I don't know that it's there right now. Like based on what you're seeing and hearing from Ward, I don't know that I would put him in the category of an elevator yet.
Yeah.
Maybe it gets there at some point this year, and they end up being a little bit better than their roster dictates that they should be. That would say good things about Cam Ward. That would probably speak well to the coaching job that Brian Callahan did this year. I'm not discounting the possibility for all those things. But yeah, like on the surface, so you look at the roster and a lot of problems. Like there are a lot of problems with the roster, particularly on defense. And then still offensively, like, I am excited about the connection that Ward and Ridley seem to have made with each other to this point. Beyond that, at wide receiver and even tight end, somebody's asking about Gunnar Helm. We'll see. Like, I don't know that Gunnar Helm is ever going to be George Kittle, but like, can he be a decent, productive tight end for you? We'll see. But I still think there are a lot of holes to fill from the skill position right now at wide receiver. And maybe the 2 4th-round rookies come in and fill some of that, but I still think as they're under construction with this roster, there's a lot still left to be desired on both sides of the football, which adds up to me to a bad team. I'm sorry. It does.
Yeah. And right now you're kind of just hoping that some of those draft picks hit. Like you hope you can invest in Oladejo and that he becomes a solid pass rusher. And you hope at least one of those 4th-round rookie.
If they had one of those, they might be in better shape.
Yeah.
Put them on defense on this team, honestly.
Yeah, it could hit the quarterback.
I'd put them at edge rusher.
Yep.
Imagine Chewbacca coming off the edge.
Oh, boy. You hope that one of your 4th-round rookie wide receivers develop or have a big year this year. And all signs point to Iomanner being that guy, but it's not a sure thing. You hope that you can build through the draft, and Brinker and Borgonzi have, said that they want to do that, and that's going to take a couple years. But right now, on this day, August 13th, 2025, this is a bad roster. And I don't think there's any shame in saying that.
I got one texter that says, those who are saying, but our defensive starters weren't out there, are acting as if this isn't the same starting unit that got smoked by Malik Willis and Matt Jones. Yeah, I mean, look, we'll see. I mean, Rexrode fully believes that Jeffrey Simmons is going to be a different level of player this year based on the weight loss that he's had and the explosiveness that he's got with that weight loss. I hope so. We'll see. If he is, what sort of a difference does that make for the defense? I don't know if it's going to make a massive difference, but it'll certainly make a difference, right? Like they'll be better if Jeffrey Simmons is the best version of himself. So I'll leave some room for that. Sweat, unfortunately, we hadn't seen a whole lot of lately because he's been dealing with the tonsils, and hopefully he gets back out there soon and can play. But like, hopefully in year 2 with him, there's a significant jump from year 1 to year 2 where he is not only just involved in stuff in the run, but he can maybe get after the quarterback a little bit more often than he did last year. So there are some things that could happen where maybe the defense is better than we think it is. But as we say, there's a lot of hope involved with a lot of that too. And hope is not a great strategy in professional sports.
Was it Draymond Jones who looked like he was on his way to a sack and then slipped?
Yep.
The other night in the preseason game?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe in a regular season game, he doesn't slip and Gets a sack.
I mean, yeah, Fields terrible the other night. There's
That's
no
what I
doubt about
said.
that.
They
Like,
put the sod down late.
Saw down the day before the game, and then
it
it rained all day. So,
yeah.
didn't seem like a great playing service. The other night.
Slipping a little bit, but I don't know. Maybe Draymond Jones could flash a little. He's one player who, I'll be honest, I haven't seen a lot of.
Yeah.
Just being in Seattle and not watching a whole lot of their games lately over the last couple of years. I don't know. Maybe he can have more of an impact than I'm anticipating. And if Simmons does take that next step, maybe he can draw the double teams. He's not great at winning his double teams.
Yeah.
But perhaps that can open up more one-on-ones, and maybe Jones or Sweat or Femi can, win a couple here and there.
John asking over-under on Titans Pro Bowlers this year, setting 1.5. I mean, I'll answer this, I guess, in like what a Pro Bowler used to be. Like, there's a chance that, 9 AFC quarterbacks are either busy or say no and don't want to go do it. So Cam Ward ends up being a quote-unquote Pro Bowler. That doesn't count to me. Like the Tyler Huntley Pro Bowler, that doesn't count to me.
Oh yeah.
So we'll just go like straight up, right out of the gate Pro Bowler. I'll go 1. Like Jeffrey Simmons has got a shot.
Simmons might make it.
He might make it.
Maybe the punter.
I'll say
Maybe
2.
Hecker.
I'll say 2.
Okay.
Maybe Ridley is one of them.
Okay. I mean, that would be a great year from Ridley if we're talking about him being a Pro Bowler.
Oh, no doubt about that.
So that would be. I mean, I would take that right now. 615-737-1025. A couple more of your thoughts to get to on the Titans front. Brian Callahan coming up right around 8:40. We'll get to all that. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Brian Callahan scheduled to address the media at 8:40. We will have that for you coming up here in just a few minutes. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. One texter says, Lord have mercy, guys. I mean, we're not a Super Bowl winning team, but we're also not the number one pick in next year's draft type of roster. We were a couple of Will Levis butt fumble type plays from 2 to 3 more wins. I mean, go look at the roster, man. The roster is a bottom 5 roster in college in the NFL. It's a bottom 5 roster. So when you're a bottom 5
Maybe not
roster,
in college.
it is not college. If you're a bottom 5 roster in the NFL, you are going to be in the discussion of number 1 overall picks. I'm sorry. I mean, you are. I mean, look, everybody, we've talked about this. Not that this is the gospel or anything, but people have ranked the roster. Bill Barnwell has come out and done it. Other executives have done it in these anonymous polls, and everybody's got the Titans right around like 30th or 31st in the league in terms of the roster. So can great quarterback play, can elevated quarterback play help that? Sure. Yeah, absolutely it can. Will we get that? We'll see. We'll see what that looks like from Cam Ward this year. I'm with you. Like, I don't expect it to be certainly as egregiously bad as Levis was at times last year. I hope not, because that would not be a welcome sight for Cam Ward. But bottom line is this roster is not going to be very good. Hey, look, I hope they can overachieve a little bit, right? I mean, the expectation for them heading into this year is basically that, hey, can you guys are you guys going to be 5-12? Like, that's basically what the expectation nationally, to a certain degree locally, is probably going to be for this team, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
So can you get past that? Can you overplay that if you're the Titans?
I call it tightening, which they didn't do it last year because they were so bad, but usually the Titans, sometimes they'll pull off the wins that they're not supposed to win, and then they'll go lose when they're supposed to win. So
That has happened.
I call that tightening. Maybe they can pull some of that off this year, but you're right, Robby. I think it's on paper right now. It is certainly a bottom 5 roster in the NFL, and like you said, bottom 5 is usually in contention for a top 5 pick. So I'm not saying they're going to be as egregiously bad as they were last year, because I think they've improved their quarterback play, at least on paper. But I don't see this being, a sneaky 9-8 playoff team. Like, I think they're going to miss the playoffs by a 3-4 game margin, and they'll be picking in the top 6 or 7.
The other part of this that we probably hadn't talked about enough is the schedule. Like, the bottom line is most, not all, but most of their tough games come in the early part of the year, right? Like, it
opens up a little bit.
At the very end of the year, you've got, Jacksonville twice. You've got Cleveland on the road.
Saints.
You got the Saints for the last home game of the year. So, I mean, it opens up a little bit at the end of the year where, like, on paper, looking at the rosters now, and we'll see how it plays out, but you got some games that you could be in and that you could win. At the early part of the year, Denver, LA, the Texans.
Yeah.
The
also,
Chargers.
You also benefit from playing in a bad division.
No doubt. Like, the Colts could be absolutely terrible, right?
Yeah.
That's the other part of this. Like, the Colts right now, you got Anthony Richardson hurt. Daniel Jones is their other option at quarterback, and he's not good. The Jags with a first-year head coach, what are they going to be? I mean, even Houston, I think, is the best team in the division, but I don't love Houston's offensive line. Like, I don't know that Houston is going to be like the thing that scares me to death about Houston is I think their defense has a chance to be pretty good, but like Houston's offensive line, they could be awful this year. So we'll see what happens on that front. But if you could get to like that first Jacksonville game is November the 30th. Like, can you get to that part of the season and still have some meaningful football left to play? Because if you can, and I'm not even really talking about playoffs, but like if you're in the hunt there and you've got Jacksonville twice, you've got Cleveland on the road, you've got New Orleans at home, like those are some winnable games. And yeah, you've got, on the road at San Francisco and at home against Kansas City sandwiched in there too. And those are going to be tough. But if you can get to the end of the year, you've got a shot there with some winnable games.
Yeah, it opens up for sure. And I know it's just the Titans. I just have no hope right now. And maybe I'm sounding super pessimistic and negative, and I try to avoid that. But, it's not a good roster. there's so many question marks moving into the season as far as your quarterback and your wide receivers and your defense. And I think that's going to be too much for them to overcome. I really do. I think it's going to be a work in progress for the next couple of years until we build through the draft and we get key pieces we can build around our quarterback if he is, in fact, our quarterback of the future. And I don't know. That's just kind of where I stand on that.
615-737-1025, our phone number. Brian Callahan addressing the media before day number 2 of joint practice with the Falcons. Scheduled to do that around 8:40. We'll have that for you coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Welcome back in. Final segment of the day. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley alongside Connor Newt and Ian Safar here with you on this Wednesday morning. Day number 2 coming up between the Titans and the Falcons at joint practices down there in Atlanta. Brian Callahan is scheduled to address the media here shortly, and we will have that for you when he becomes available. Taking your thoughts in the meantime, 615-737-1025. As a matter of fact, Brian Callahan's good to go. So here he is.
Where are you as far as that process?
Yeah, I'm glad they have the standards high. I don't think we started the practice the way that we'd want to. I think slow starts, though, I think are relative a little bit to, the performance. So if you go out and play well, it doesn't feel like a slow start. If you go out and don't hit a couple throws and make a play or two, it feels slow. The difference between the two is just simply that sometimes is that you don't make the couple plays you need to make early to kind of get it going. That's sort of what happened yesterday.
Jeff pointed out that the slow start thing was something that you guys talked about a lot last year too. But so much intentionality has gone into this offseason kind of fixing the wrongs from last year. Why do you think that one maybe is lacking behind?
It's one of those. I think it's one of those things sometimes when you're. Again, I think more of it has to do with making plays early on in practice, so it doesn't feel that way. It's something that we continue to work on and continue to try to get out to a fast start. But again, I think it's more about making the plays early on that doesn't make it feel like it's slow. And I think you hit a couple of plays and the perception of the practice probably changes. But that to me is the biggest thing is you got to come out and make a few plays early. And usually it feels a lot better.
Jeff also said, part of the reason that the run defense wasn't great yesterday is that they threw a lot of runs at you that you hadn't seen before. That seems kind of an odd excuse. Like, you're not expecting to recognize everything in Denver on opening day, are you? Don't you have to be able to defend stuff that you haven't seen before?
Yeah, I don't think the run defense was the huge issue yesterday, personally. Thought we had some pretty good fits yesterday. I don't think it was it's hard to tell in practice, right? You're not tackling. There's guys fitting in there and tagging off. So those were some good things yesterday in the run game. I know they had a couple of game plan things, style runs that they had for Jeff that they whammed him once or twice early in the practice. They had a couple of things to try to disrupt him, it's pretty standard. Those are things that he deals with as a player of his caliber. So
philosophically, that idea, we haven't seen it, so we didn't do as well against it as we would have had we seen it on film.
I think at the end of the day, we don't have any film on what they're doing. So it's not like we have a game plan process or 4 or 5 games to look at on how they're going to run the ball against us. So, there's probably some truth to not knowing some of the schemes that they're facing. And then some of it, you got to adapt and adjust to it. So I think it's a combination of both.
Brian, are you getting what you wanted out of this extended road trip? And do you think that it all contributed to yesterday's practice?
No, I think we're getting everything that I want out of this road trip, and I think that's part of it. There's a little bit of the adversity faction that you're trying to get comfortable with, and you're trying to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And there's going to be times in the season where you're going to look back, and the feeling's going to feel familiar. And that's the idea, is to make it challenging and make it hard. Not being in our normal surroundings, not being in our own beds, all of those things is part of the process of it. And I think that part's been great. There's been some things that we got to clean up from an execution standpoint in practice. I don't necessarily attribute the practice to that, but yeah, our guys tired. Yeah, of course. And that's the idea. It's training camp. It's supposed to be hard. And I think that's the idea of the whole trip, is that's a key component of it, is we're going to go through some hard stuff. And so that's what we're doing it now. And then you have a chance to draw upon some of these experiences as you go through hard things during the season, because inevitably every season, no matter how good your football team is, you go through challenges and you're going to go through hardships and you're going to have things that you have to overcome. And the more you can put yourself in those positions, the better off I think you're going to be in the long run. So it's all a part of the process to me when it comes to being on the road and feeling like it's not, everything's not, hunky-dory and we're all having a good time. Like, it's supposed to be hard.
Brian, yesterday, the first team offense, it seemed like that outside of Calvin, some of the receivers weren't getting a lot of separation, weren't getting, into their spaces sometimes quickly enough. And particularly with Ironman, it felt like he was timid on a couple of 50-50 balls where maybe he should have gone up and taking charge and gotten and taking the ball away from the DB.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a concern to you that these guys are not creating the separation against these DBs that you want?
No, I don't think that's necessarily a concern. I mean, they're good players. I think AJ Terrell is a really good player. I know Jesse Bates firsthand. I know how good he is in their secondary, and they do a good job. I mean, they have players, and I think it was a good test for Alec. He had a chance to go up against AJ a couple of times in team periods, and he's getting a little bit more work share in some of those spots. And for him to have those opportunities and see what it looks like when you're playing against a real dude out there, it's good for him. And he learned from it as a young player. There was one pretty contested ball that they got all tangled up, and you'd love to see him make that play, and you hope that the more experiences he has in those positions that he ends up making those plays. So it's great for him to go against that kind of competition. I think it's been good for our team to go against their defense, and they got a good secondary, and it's a good test, and we'd like to perform better than we did yesterday, and today's another chance to go do it.
Ryan, how have you seen Cam continue to handle when things don't go his way on the field, whether it was the practice yesterday, the first drive in the preseason game against Tampa? How have you seen him continue to handle that, and I guess how would you like him to respond today?
I think he's handled the adversities of being a young player pretty well. There's always going to be ups and downs. There's going to be days where you perform well. There's going to be periods that are better than others. And you have to learn how to deal with that, because that's how the season goes. There's going to be drives in a game that are good. There's going to be drives in a game that you don't get anything out of. And how you come back for the next one, I think, is really important. And he's shown the ability to bounce back and come back and find ways to perform well. I think the Tampa game is a great example of you go 3-and-out to start, and you come back and you lead a touchdown drive. That's what you hope for. That's what you're looking for from just the response element of it. And he's very prideful. He wants to perform well all the time, and he's learning how to play NFL football. And those moments where it gets hard is where I'm trying to put him in as many of those moments as possible, because they're coming. Whether you prepare him now or you let him do it later, they're all coming. And I think he's in a better place, having dealt with all the things he had to deal with over the course of camp, and he's going to continue to get better.
How is London able to get so open so often in the middle of the field?
Yeah, we got to tighten some of the interior coverage lanes up. He did a good job. They had some space. I mean, we're playing zone coverage in some of those spots, and he's finding the space in there, and we got to do a better job covering from the interior. And Drake's a really good player. I think he caught pretty much every pass they threw yesterday. We were pretty good in most other places, but he had a good day yesterday.
Having gone through both sides of it, winning with the young quarterback and also losing, what would you say is the hardest, the toughest thing about managing that, winning with a rookie quarterback?
Well, I think you try to keep your demeanor consistent, win or lose. And with a rookie player, whether they're having success, a lot of it, there's sort of it's either adversity or prosperity, right? There's two things you got to deal with, and both are sort of equally challenging. And I'd love to be dealing with the prosperity part, but you always have the other part that's where things don't go as well. And those are two things you have to try to manage, because sometimes the good stuff is false, and it's the result of other things that maybe aren't necessarily exactly the play that you need. And then sometimes the adversity doesn't have as much to do with it either. And it's circumstantial, I guess, is my best point, is you try to be as consistent as you can and not have a whole lot of ups and downs when it comes to dealing with either one of those things. And you try to just keep focused on the next day and getting better.
So the consistency, that's the hardest thing.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. And it's consistency of play. It's consistency in demeanor and emotion and all of those things. And I think those are things that you're always working on. I mean, I work on them the same way. It's the same thing for anybody. But it's hard to be an NFL quarterback. There's a lot that goes on for these guys, and there's a lot of things that Cam continues to learn. And I think that's been the beauty of the training camp, and why we're doing all the things we're doing, is so he can try to accelerate that process as fast as possible.
So you got 19 days and 6 padded practices before a game week. What's the message of urgency to this team? Is this a team that's ready to play Denver?
Yeah, of course not. We're not ready yet. I mean, I don't think anybody's ready to play real football yet. That's every team in the league right now. But you're trying to stack as many good days as possible. You're trying to keep performing better every time you step out there, and that's where we're at. I mean, it's time. It's getting close to time to go, and we got to feel that. I think our team does. And there's a there's an imminent beginning here coming very quickly. We cut the roster down in 2 weeks. It's coming. The season's coming, and we've got work to do still. And we're not alone in that, but we got to get ready to go.
These last two, Nick and then Jared.
Is the expectation to still play guys, everybody on Friday?
Yeah, everybody's going to play. Probably similar to last week. It's my same guys probably out. Simmons and Zeitler will probably sit, but other than that, most guys should be good to go. I may revisit that after today and see where we're at and all that. But yeah, plan on those guys playing pretty similar to last week.
Yeah, and to that end, how much for Cam? How much game action for him?
Probably about 2 series. I think because he played two series last week and like to kind of continue that. I think just the game, being in the stadium and the game reps, I think is important. Whether or not we're playing against starters or it doesn't really matter. It's more just to be in the stadium, on the field by himself, hearing the calls, managing the clock, all those things. Just the more experience of that he gets, the better. And so as long as those starters are in there, he'll be in there. So again, probably about 2 series.
Right. Last one.
Good.
Quick one on Kevin Winston.
Yeah.
Where are you guys in that evaluation on when he's going to be?
Yeah, hopeful probably to get him back next week is sort of the projected goal. So we'll see where he's at. I mean, he's been working here in the rehab process, doing pretty well. So I think hopeful maybe get him back next week in practice. Yeah, thank you.
There goes Brian Callahan before day number 2 of practice against Atlanta. A couple of quick things there, Connor, that stood out. Cam Ward and the starters sound like they're going to play a couple series again on Friday against Atlanta coming up. Kevin Winston will be back hopefully next week. Been kind of a weird, interesting situation with him not being on the field after having come back from the ACL. So it looks like he'll be back at some point next week. The start of that press conference was interesting because there's a lot of questions about the bad practice yesterday. I think at one point Callahan said, it's good to have the high standard. But I think, one of his points was something I worried about earlier in the show. And he talked about how, early in practice, the slow start kind of comes down to like, do you make a couple of plays early in practice that are presented to you or do you not? And that kind of determines whether or not you had a quote unquote slow start. And that was kind of my point earlier in the show. Like how much of this is, I don't know how much of this is approach or lack of focus or lack of intensity or all these things that we always try to blame slow starts on. And how much of it is they're just not very good, right? Like, like that's what I keep going back to. Like how much of this is, he talked about Drake London. I will think one thing that he said in that press conference kind of annoyed me is, well, then other than Drake London catching every pass, we had a pretty good day out there against the rest of the receivers. It's like, well, that's great. If in a game, Drake London catches 15 passes for 185 yards and 3 touchdowns, nobody's going to really care what you did against everybody else
Not great
out there. So I would like to see some of that get out of his vocabulary there of, well, we did a good job on everybody else except Drake London. It's like, well, guess what?
It's the positive
Your job
spin,
when the
man.
game comes around is going to be to stop Drake London. So I don't know what to tell you.
It's the positive spin. I mean, I get it's preseason and he's trying to, get you to watch Titans football and invest in the team. But at the same time, like, you're right. If it's a real game and Drake London lights you up like that, and guess what? Guess who's getting a lot of crap for it? Probably you.
Yeah. So I'm glad that they felt good about the way they played against all the other receivers except Drake London yesterday. We'll see what they do in day 2. Hopefully a nice bounce back performance today for the Titans. We'll have you covered for it tomorrow. Paul Kuharski on the show tomorrow in the 7:00 hour. Charles Robinson at 8:00. Joe will be back tomorrow as well. Connor, appreciate you being in with us today. Next Man Up with Jake Lyman is next. You're listening to 102.5 The Game.